60% of marriages end in divorce,
Mm,
which is why friends and friendships keep dissolving,
mm.
right? I was teaching in my Patreon yesterday, and I told them, I said, poor communication skills is the number one reason why relationships fail. And you know why? Because most of us are not able to be honest with each other. Why? Because the real honest you is your shadow.
So shadow work. I know me personally. Um, I have been getting a lot of like messages about shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. And I did what I thought was going into that. I popped in to some things yesterday, got some clarity on some things yesterday, but that's after I had went and took my own substance, but just I tried to do it alone, without anything. Today, how do you go about shadow work? Like, what is your viewpoint in what process do you take, or do you advise rather?
I actually created a shadow work course for people because people kept asking me about that. And so I do have an online shadow work course. Maybe in the show notes, you could provide a link if people are interested in taking a look
For
at it.
sure.
But so for me, I think, and I studied Carl Jung's position on shadow work. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Carl Jung.
Hmm.
He was a psychiatrist. He's no longer alive, but he was a psychiatrist, psychologist, but he was also into spirituality. So he would bring psychology and spirituality together. That's why I love his work. So all of us have what we call that shadow inside of us, but I think people make it be something bad, and I don't think it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we are born into this world, and the moment we come into this world, people start to program us and condition us, and they teach us to behave, think, and believe the way they think we should think, behave, and believe. Meanwhile, our true essence, what we call in psychology the true self, then the true self ends up getting suppressed, pushed back, and we end up becoming who people think we should be. Whether that's how our parents raised us, whether that's what the preacher taught us, whether that's what society says, all of us are trying to fit into these little norms because we don't want to feel like we're the oddball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, who you truly were supposed to cultivate in developing your personality, that part of you gets pushed to the back, and that's what we call the shadow. And
Okay.
so as much as we try to ignore that and ignore that part of our personality, that part of our personality goes into the unconscious mind, right? But it still starts to act out. We end up lashing out. We end up, those are the times that you say stuff and you wish you could take it back. That's your shadow talking. When you have these thoughts that come into your mind and you're like, oh, I know I can't say that out loud. That's your shadow working through you. So what I try to teach people to do is do the shadow work, which means let's go find the part of yourself, the part of your personality that you've hidden away, that you tucked inside your soul because you were ashamed or embarrassed to bring that part of yourself out. And let's get to know her. If I'm talking to a woman, let's get to know her, and let's see if there is a way that you can integrate that part of yourself into your world's experience now, so that she doesn't have to feel like she has to keep showing out, because you have to teach it, like you have to treat it like it's a part of your personality. It's a person, and she's being ignored, so it's working subconsciously in your soul, and it's going to come out at times that you least expect, which is why 60% of marriages end in divorce,
Mm,
which is why friends and friendships keep dissolving,
mm.
right? I was teaching in my Patreon yesterday, and I told them, I said, poor communication skills is the number one reason why relationships fail. And you know why? Because most of us are not able to be honest with each other. Why? Because the real honest you is your shadow. The real honest you is your shadow. And most of the time we don't say what we really believe because we think somebody's going to judge us. That's the shadow part. So doing shadow work is getting a person to get to know the part of yourself that you've ignored, and try to find ways to incorporate that part of your personality into your real life experience. so that you can really be authentic. Now that's how I view shadow work.
I think
It's
that's an
painful.
excellent breakdown.
Okay.
I think this, I really do. And with that, I want to ask this. So, you know, a lot of the PC culture too, I think, is anti-shadow. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? It's always shutting your shadow up or dimming you down. I've noticed a lot of things have been
Wait,
popping up.
what's PC culture? Sometimes I'm a little slow.
No, you all right. Politically correct.
Correct. Okay, gotcha. Yes.
Yes. That, and like even
Mhm.
with myself, so I'm gonna put myself out there instead of dilly-dallying around, you know, because sometimes when you're
Okay.
trying to dilly-dally, it makes it complicated to get the conversation across. So when I'm on here, now I'm a very direct person, but I also know how to be PC, and I was taught growing up, you have to know when to turn it on and turn it off. You've got to know what environment to be, whatever representative you're going to send out there, and not necessarily being fake, but you know what I'm saying? You have
Mhm.
to curtail
Mhm.
yourself to the environment.
Mhm.
So when I'm
Mhm.
on here and I'm speaking constantly in my background, I feel like certain messages are hindered because I'm trying to protect certain people or their feelings or what they're going to think. And especially like me being married, right? There are some things that I might want to speak on that I don't speak on because I don't want it to get back to, you know, your spouse might be, they might receive something in a way, it's not an attack, but you know, they might receive it that way. Or you might tell something about yourself that has nothing to do with them, but they still feel attacked because it's like, well, how does that make me look? How? And I know you are a married woman as
I
well.
am. I sure am.
So now, see, we getting deep right now, right?
Let's go deep. And see, that's actually an example of a shadow. That's a part of your shadow. A part of your shadow says, I want to be able to say what I'm thinking and feeling, and I don't want to have to walk on eggshells. But I know if I say this, some of y'all gonna take it the wrong way, or my husband's gonna take it the wrong way. That's the shadow self, y'all. And that's so. Thank you for giving us a real time example of what we mean when we talk about the shadow. And so we've been culturally conditioned to be PC, haven't we? And that's what Carl Jung talks about. You know, it's actually called the persona. What you just described is what we call the persona, where we're taught, even though they don't really say it this way, but we are taught to put on these masks depending on where we are. So if you're in church, which is my background, you're supposed to act like this, dress like this, talk like this, look like this. You know, when you go to work, you got to dress like this, look like this, act like this. When you're around your older family members, your elders, you got to act like this, dress like this, look like this. So we end up with associate personality disorder. Uh-oh. 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 We end up with multiple personalities now because we have created all of these personas, which is short for personalities, because we're trying to be politically correct so we can blend in and fit in. And we don't realize that we're creating the shadow. And it can actually affect your mental health too. So most people have about 5 to 10 different personas. Uh-oh.
Oh my God. Listen, this is what I love about the conversation. Y'all right now, like, share, and because it takes a life of its own. It really does. It really does.